Welcome, everyone. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing John Canning, who's the executive producer, new media of Digital Domain. And John will be telling you all about what he does and giving really a great talk to conclude our first day of AI Showbiz Summit. So we will turn it over to you now, John, to take it away. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I feel like a late night talk show host. I feel like I'm the late show. I'm wrapping it up. Happy to be with everyone. Realize that you haven't left the house all day. I haven't left the house all day. And it is fun to be here. So I was like, what exactly do you want me to talk about this late at night and hopefully keep people awake? I would recommend that everybody pull up a drink. There we go. Everybody have your drink for this evening. Pull it up. Yep. Sit by the fire. I almost feel like I should turn off the video and just kind of, breathe into the mic and say, well, hello, good evening, everyone. But I'm not going to do that. All right. So what I was going to do is talk a little bit about how the heck I got here, and a little bit of a crazy journey that I think we are all on. I have been examining that more and more as I have been stuck in my house working away and spending more time on Zoom calls than I care to think about. And I realized that, frankly, this is right back where I started from. So a little bit of being interactive in my life is the interactive world. It is all about the craziness, and it is all about where we started from. Or, frankly, what I realize is what is old is new. And I think a lot of you have thought about this as you find yourselves going, if I do it often enough, I may get this right. Back in the day, if you will, we used to throw information up on our television screens in between the videos like this. Teletext, people. Everybody in Europe knows what I'm talking about. Everybody in the US is very confused. But this was an analog version of what we call interactive television. And it was the thing that we started working with to say there's got to be more than just linear television being broadcast to all of you. And then we went on to set-top boxes that were a hybrid of the two. And I found myself
John, I'm sorry, I'm going to leap in because we want to see your slides and they're not advancing. So the whole audience, we have a big crowd. They're like, we want to see John's slides and they're not advancing. So I don't know if you want to start slideshow or you've got it in outline view. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure.
It's already. I stopped. I started the slideshow and they're not coming through, huh?
Yeah. But maybe close. Right. This is live. We'll give you more time for sure.
I'll fix that.
And we had this happen to one other person earlier today, except we did a really good job this time. That person, we were just kind of listening to them talk and didn't realize it for quite some time. And then we realized, whoa, their slides not really advancing.
All right. Well, let me go. I thought I was being clever and come up with a different way to do it, but apparently that is not playing well with
Zoom.
All right. What do you see?
I see no slides. We need you to share your screen. And
all right, people. See me. Let's try this one more time. We thought we had mastered modern technology. Please tell me you're seeing slides.
We see the first slide being interactive, and yes, there you go.
Yep.
Okay, this is much better. Sorry about that. I thought I was clever and I figured it out, but apparently I'd gotten stuck. Set-top boxes analog to digital. And who out there in the audience, and you're going to have to ask yourself, because it's always a bummer when I can't see you raise your hands, remembers web TV?
I do.
Yep, see, there you go. And this was the period in my life, frankly, where going to work on something that was a box attached to the television that allowed you to browse the World Wide Web.
John, I worked on Pippin.
Oh my God. Well, welcome to the crowd. Welcome to the crowd. But if you think about it, we've had this constant drive to do more past the linear narrative, right? And eventually we wound up at the second screen, the mobile phone, the thing that we're all holding up and we say, yep, this has made it. And I would contend to you that the second screen isn't the right answer. Because frankly, this device was the way that we all got around the fact that you couldn't do interactive television to the TV. And if everybody stops and thinks for a second, it wasn't technology that stopped us from doing these kind of things, but it's policies, it's networks, it's different companies that all had to work in concert together. And if you think about how you get television today, you may get it a number of different ways, and none of them were the same. So if I was, say, a Major League Baseball or somebody who wanted to give you more information, I had to work with every different entity that brought you your television. So suddenly, the mobile phone or the smartphone gave us a way around that. But I would contend it's not the best way. It was the only way we could get around that. The best way being going back to first screen interactivity, the thing that we've always wanted to do, the thing that, yep, we're all laying around that television, we're all watching that thing. And what we want to do is just pick up the remote and point it at it and make something happen. But what we've done now is just pull all that apart and pull that into different directions and put it onto any screen, frankly. Now, if you think about television, and I've said this, and I'm sure some of you have heard me say this before, television used to be considered three things: the way you got it, the way you watched it, and what it was. Those were all combined together. Go back to that. I got it, the screen, and the way you watched it. Today, we've pulled all three of those apart. The only thing that remains consistent for television, it's an episodic means of content. The what you watch it on and how you got it, completely thrown out the window. I love LifeWire, love their pictures, but it describes the world we live in today, which says I get content in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons at different times for different means. And when you remember, and many of you are out there, remember a period of time when we started putting video out on the World Wide Web. And then we put video onto YouTube and other forums. And everybody said that no video will be over a minute long on the web. Nobody wants to watch content on the web longer than a minute. How many of you watched Game of Thrones on some OTT service? So if you think about the world of way we consume content, it's not necessarily adhering to those rules. I had somebody once try to convince me that television or the new content was going to be on these things. It was going to be square video because that was the new video methodology. No, it just means we've expanded and exploded where we can get content. And that is where I constantly find myself, is that going after doing new and interesting things with content. So the old and the new. And if you think about now interactivity, the days of choose your own adventure, well, we just reinvented choose your own adventure, but now on different devices. Bandersnatch on Netflix, or I think they started with Puss in Boots. Let's just talk about Bandersnatch, or Mosaic, or any of these, which are frankly choose your own adventure ways of telling a narrative. And in fact, Bandersnatch has A, B. Not crazy, sophisticated choose your own adventure. But let's face it, it's getting people back to playing with that, trying different things. This is not vodka. So the interactivity has come back, and it's come back to these native screens. It's not that we need a second screen to do it. It's just we're enabling the first screen, but that be this screen, our laptop, our iPad, our 75-inch television mounted to a wall, to natively have those capabilities. I almost like to say we're getting to the point where we don't have to apologize for our device being stupid or not being able to do something. So today, for me, it has been this evolution in this journey. I often say to folks, I probably don't do anything different. I just do it for different people. I find myself now doing visual effects for any screen. Well, what the heck does that mean? Well, frankly, I find that as I work on all these different means of bringing a picture to a surface and telling a story, be it projection mapping, being it movies, but I find myself in the world of blending reality, creating digital humans, or digital characters being human, or digital characters driven by humans. You know, you think about back in Benjamin Button, this digital character spent more time on the screen than the actor, but it was driven by the actor. It was the way for an actor to look completely different, but still have the background and be driven by an actor. So when we think about building characters and digital characters today, a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to replace humans with AI and digital characters. And I would argue what we're doing is enabling actors to do more than they've ever done before. We did Tupac as Digital Domain back in 2012, and it was crazy, and it makes people scratch their head, but it was changing and twisting what you could do with a character. The Ready Player One circumstance. This is actually a picture and a digital character. It's the actor, but it was a shot that you couldn't get any other way than creating that digital head. And if you stop and think about it, if we do our work, people don't know you've done it. It's blending reality in such a way that it no longer makes you stop and think, well, how do they do that? It's like watching a magician and not asking anymore, well, how did he do the trick? But just being delighted in the magic of the trick. So creating digital humans, hopefully this is playing at a frame rate you can see. But that it didn't be a digital human for any other reason than to pull off a complicated shot. And the trick was being authentic to making that person a person. Creating something like Thanos, where it was taking Josh Brolin and having him act, but that coming through as a giant purple character, but all the subtlety and the nuances of that character. But then I come to one of my favorite topics, is video games. And it's being able to take and create characters in video games. How often have you heard somebody say about virtual reality, well, we don't know how to tell a story in this brand new medium? Yeah, I would say that's probably not true, given that every game developer and designer worth their salt knows how to put somebody in the middle of a universe, give them a story in a universe, and let them go. So we're seeing the combining of these worlds. Is it interactive? Is it immersive? Is it a little of some and a little of another? The combining of the worlds to start blending these things and then doing it in a real-time way. So working with real-time engines. So my friend Doug Roble here at Digital Domain, that's a digital version of Doug. And the quest to be able to authentically replicate the human and then be in the digital environment and work on the subtleties. And Doug is amazing because Doug is constantly lending to this experimentation. But the key here is that Doug's not perfect. And being able to represent those imperfect aspects of somebody. And Doug plays himself very well and drives himself very well. But then thinking about it as he did at TED, where he was driving himself on stage, being able for someone to drive a character, and we see that today in voice actors, and we see this in animation, and we see this constant ability in video games. But if you think about it, it's being able to drive a character. And if we think about game players around the world that are being a different character, maybe in different games, an alien, it doesn't matter. But it's the ability to tell those stories and create those characters and create the stories at whatever fidelity, but at the highest fidelity today, that to me, going to any kind of screen is the key. So, Molly, that's what I've been up to. I've been doing and creating and playing with this brand new world and watching them collide together and being okay with it, because I think that's the fun. And, you know, frankly, spending a little more time at home playing video games has just reinforced that. But that's what I've been up to.
I mean, how fascinating, John. I could listen to you all day and all night talk about these things. And
now I'm going to have a whiskey.
Yeah, have your whiskey. We've got some questions that have come in, and thank you for putting it in context like that and the historical perspective. It's fascinating. It is a topic that I am deeply consumed with thinking about all the time. And what did you say? All that's new is old, all that's old is new again, or something like that.
What is old is new.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about what I constantly think about and find myself, you know, Ted Chilowich will be joining you all, I think, on Wednesday as a futurist. Yeah. I find myself, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, maybe it's because I've done a variety of different jobs, but they've all blended. And at some point, I realized there's a through line to what I've been doing. But looking back to interactivity, looking back to some of the things that we constantly try to do, which is sometimes it's technology that's held us back, sometimes it's policy, sometimes it's rights, but it's always, we're constantly trying to create this environment to get access to information, to be entertained, and we're just constantly inventing new ways to do very similar kinds of things. You know, VR is the newest revolution in that long line of things, and right now it ergonomically sucks, but you can see the potential and you can see what we're doing with it, but it's not the answer for every question. And I think that's what's interesting is these technologies where, oh, it's all going to go this direction, but what we found is it gets balkanized and it changes, and you know, it's like, well, there is a reason that I have a cell phone, and there's a reason I have an iPad, and there's a reason I have a laptop. Different use cases, different usages. You know, there was a point where literally, I remember a bunch of pundits saying that there's the death of the television screen. Those things have been going crazy because they're so cheap. You can mount them on your wall, and as people get older and have families, there is still this thing, this big thing in your one room that people are gathering around and watching. You know, the arguments that no, nobody's going to watch television ever again on anything but their cell phone isn't true. What's fun is they're watching it everywhere, but they're watching it differently. The thing I watch on this device is different than what I may watch on that big 75-inch. I don't actually have a 75-inch, but some people have 75-inch televisions.
Awesome. Well, I have a question that I want to personally ask because it's something that I believe in. I wanted to get your, that's really cool.
I'm just gonna hide. I'm hiding my drink.
I want to hear your perspective on holograms and where they fit in entertainment in our lives.
Oh, that's a good one. Holograms. Here's the misnomer about holograms, and I work on what people would call holograms. I feel like a hologram right now because I've got effectively sort of a green screen background. I'm appearing here. I've got a bad cutout going. Hologram is just a presentation method, right? And true holograms, there's a couple of companies that are getting close, but we don't have them yet. The hologram of, say, a Tupac or other things is a Pepper's Ghost effect. And again, it's a visual trickery, if you will, of shining light on a screen and having an image basically seem to float. That's different than creating digital characters. Often I get calls from folks that want to create a hologram, but what they're talking about may be a digital character, or sometimes, it's not necessarily the same thing. I can create a hologram visual effect by taking and shooting live video of a person against a green screen, cutting them out, shooting them precise, and projecting them. It doesn't have to be a digital created character. It doesn't have to be a deceased character. It's a way of presenting. So that's the interesting thing is there's a lot of nuances here. Jimmy Kimmel did a hologram where he was projected to I think it was the Country Music Awards. And that was a green screen effect where they took him, and it was telepresence, if you will, right? Yeah. What we're doing now is telepresence.
Yeah. It's interesting. The person who did that, David Nussbaum, with Hologram USA, was just
That's right.
Before during our event we had before a couple hours ago about that very thing. So we thank you for such interesting perspective. We have a question that came in. Where did it go? Yeah. Hang on a sec. In the Q&A. Bear with me.
No, I didn't shave. I apologize.
I guess what happened to it? I didn't dismiss it. It was
answered, Molly.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you. How is Digital Domain dealing with remote production?
How is Digital Domain? Getting a studio. We have 3 studios in North America: Los Angeles, Montreal, and Vancouver. And basically, not overnight, but close to overnight, getting 800 artists working at home is no small feat. And my praise and kudos constantly go out to our systems team, who, when you show up at somebody's door and say, yeah, you remember that IT infrastructure for working at home? Can you make it work for everybody? God love them. But we basically virtualized the company. We already had a bit of a cloud architecture mentality because we have a central processing in Portland. So all 3 offices, artists were already remoting into workstations and shared storage. So it wasn't easy, but it was something that we could quickly do. So obviously the industry has challenges that nobody's going out and shooting movies and things like that, but projects we had in flight, able to keep going. And let's face it, I'm in the visual effects business, or the CG business. The one thing that really is picked up right now is CG. So we have a commercial side. I work with a commercials EP. I'm on the new media side. So the number of phone calls we get around people that suddenly now are going virtual, the virtual concerts, the virtual events, the number of people that need an avatar is crazy. Now, please don't call me if you want a photoreal digital human by June.
Not happening.
Takes a little longer. The biggest challenge we had is we're not, and I believe in the next week or so, we'll hopefully be getting back into the stage to do captures. The base process of scanning a person to create a digital version of them, it's tough when you can't go scan them at a high resolution. But that's what's been crazy about this is, to me, the number of pivots that I've seen. Brad and Shiraz over at Spaces, looking what they did. They pivoted their company. They were a location-based VR company that suddenly went. Now they've built this plug-in for VR into Zoom and things like that. The guys and gals over there pivoting hard. Another company, AR Wall, they were working on basically all these marketing projects using LED walls for trade shows. That went sideways, right? Suddenly they're getting everybody in the business calling about virtual production. That's the other side of my world. The discussion of how to do productions without physically flying to a set. How to do things in a real-time game engine, how to leverage an LED wall. All of these conversations where they were nice to have before all of this started are now suddenly this may be the only way we can do our production. So it's a crazy time, I won't lie. It's a tough time as we're all trying to figure out the new normal, but there's things going on.
Yeah. Well, how exciting for you, John, with all the demand. And talking about pivot has been a theme of this summit, and even a theme for Yannicka and I, because we were a brick and mortar event until 6 weeks ago. And I have to tell you, I think Yannicka will agree, she's smiling, that it's much more exciting doing it online like this for us. I mean, it gives us a chance to really connect with people and bring so many people together. And now, last year at this time, John, we were working out how are you going to fly there, the timing and your meetings. Now it's, I'll just walk 30 feet over to the computer and have my nightcap while I will do my keynote. So this is the future. I guess I will ask one more final question, which is
sure.
Similar. Wait a sec. To tell them.
I was trying to figure out what was happening for Yannicka, but I've now realized that she's in the space station. While the rest of us are grounded on Earth, she is currently orbiting. Well done.
That question that you just answered came in from Christopher Balessi.
Hi, Chris.
He's here, and you just can't hear him. But he's participating with the summit, and what a great question, Chris. Thank you for that. My final question, and it's my question that I would like to ask, has to do with virtual reality, because virtual reality was all the thing, and then it kind of went away, and it seems to be having a renaissance, a resurgence. How do you see, and I know I talked to you about a project I've gotten involved with a VR project tomorrow night. We're doing an event in VR completely. Where do you see that fitting in? And I mean specifically the headset situation, you wearing a head-mounted VR gear and so forth. Yes. Where is are you doing a lot of content production for that type of interface?
I mean, look, I am a big geek, and I love technology, and I love immersive technology, and I was talking about VR, meaning games, and I think, and I will always go, what I think people have to do is try not to, they have to not think that, this is a solution for every problem. And VR and AR are technologies and solutions that apply to particular problems, and find different solutions. And you can't just say VR didn't work because it didn't work for everything. It may not necessarily work because I still enjoy that big 75-inch television, and why do I need to strap something like this on my head to enjoy a movie? But what I think is never stopped and is continuing to grow is using it for purpose-driven results. The amount of training, education, enterprise aspects to VR are just maturing. Is this the perfect form factor? Not necessarily. But that's an evolution of hardware. That is, it's getting better, right? I don't know how many of you ever had some of the first laptops that existed.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. How many of you owned an Epson suitcase? Okay. Yannika's not old enough to know what I'm talking about. But there was a point in time that these things were the size of a suitcase, I kid you not. And was that a great laptop? No. Was it portable? Not really. But the reality is that it evolved, and now we got, this is my iPad, right? These things will continue to evolve. AR to VR is a continuum. It's an opacity continuum. The thing is that people want to think about it as discrete. It's an augmented reality experience, or it's a VR experience. I would put it to you to think about it as a continuum of opacity, and to then think about the future devices, capabilities that enable me to either see the world and put information over it, or to totally occlude the world because I want to go to a completely different environment. And nice, thank you. Yes, that's Yannika, you're going old school. Good job. That's the thing we have to think about. These are, it's finding the purpose for the activity. Being able to information overlay while I'm doing heart surgery is super important. And that's right now it's one form factor versus then I want to go totally occluded and play a game of Skyrim. We'll see this evolution, right? Like the smartphone tries to be everything to everyone, isn't necessarily, again, it's not a widescreen TV. Why make it a widescreen TV? So to me, VR is just getting better and better because it's moving into the areas where it's good at and not trying to be something it's not. Yeah. It's the training purposes and things like that are just fantastic. We use it on our stage, so you can see an environment you're acting in, and what I want to do is be able to put an actor on a stage doing mocap with thin lenses that can just see the virtual environment that they're acting in, say if they're doing mocap for a video game, and it'd be so much easier than pretending that this grayscale thing you're holding is a gun or a weapon, or you're going through a door. So these are just evolutions to me, and I'm very excited that we're continuing to push on it, because we're, VR, I often say, if we relied on entertainment to save VR, we would have taken it out back and shot it in the head. Thank God we didn't have to rely on entertainment saving VR, because it didn't make any sense. Using VR for architecture and enterprise and car design, and yeah, I get it. And you know what? You're going to put up with something bulky and not perfect on your head because you're solving a problem and you're doing your job better. And you're going to go, you know what? This is going to get easier and it's going to get better. As opposed to, I'm going to make you strap this on your head and try to enjoy yourself for the next 2 hours.
John, thank you so much for staying up late with us. This was incredible. Wow, I could truly listen to you talk about this all night. And thank you.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers, cheers. This was wonderful. What a way to end our first day, right, Yannicka, with John Canning. I don't know how it could get any better.